In this video, we're going to talk about traditional division. Some people might call it long division. And we're going to do a sample problem with a one-digit divisor. And we're going to talk about, or do another sample problem with a two-digit divisor. To start, let's talk about the different parts of a division problem. Here we have the dividend, which is the total number that we're starting with. It's the number that's being divided into groups. The divisor is going to tell us how many groups the divisor is how many groups we're going to be dividing it into. And the quotient is going to is the answer, and it's going to tell us how many are in each of the groups. Now the process that we're going to follow to get to our answer is we're going to start with divide, then we're going to multiply, subtract, compare, bring down, and if necessary, we're going to repeat that process all over again. And to help us remember those different steps, we use this question. And the question is, does McDonald's serve cheeseburgers daily raw? So our does is the divide, the M for McDonald's is multiply, S subtract, C compare, the B and the D go together for bring down, and then the R for repeat. The first problem we're going to start with is 326 for our dividend and 7 for our divisor. Again, we're going to divide 326 into 7 groups, and we're going to find how many will be in each group. The first step is to divide, and we're going to look at the greatest place to start with. So the 3, and we're going to see how many groups of 7 we could get from 3. Well, we can't get any groups of 7 from 3. So we're going to put a 0 up at the top. When we're first starting, you don't have to put the 0 there, but at the end, I'm going to give you something that you can look back on as a check to see if you got the answer correct. So we're going to put our 0 here. And since we started with the 0, we're going to just stay up here and we're going to do divide again, but we're going to look at the first 2 digits this time. So 32. How many groups of 7 could I get from 32? I know I can get 4 groups of 7 from 32. So the next step then would be to multiply. And we always multiply the 1 digit from the top times whatever the divisor is. So in this case, it's going to be 4 times 7 is 28. After we multiply, you can see that we subtract. So we're going to go ahead and subtract. And 32 subtract 28 is 4. After we subtract, then we're going to compare. And when we're comparing, we're making sure that this number after we subtract is smaller than our divisor. If it isn't, that shows us that we either did something wrong with our subtraction, or we might need to go back up and double check to make sure that we divided correctly and got the right number here. So our number is smaller than the divisor. So our next step is to bring down. And we're going to bring down this 6. So now we have 46. Since we brought down, we have to repeat that whole process again and go through the process. Some students find that they like to make this equal sign into another division sign as a reminder that now we're going to divide this number by the divisor. We're going to see how many groups of 7 we can get from 46. And in this case, we can get 6 groups of 7 from 46. So that was our dividing. Now to multiply, our 1 digit from up here, 6, times our divisor 7. 6 times 7 is 42. Then we subtract. 46 subtract 42 is also 4. After we subtract, again, we have to compare. We have to make sure this number is smaller than our divisor, and it is. Then we look to see if there's any more numbers to bring down. In this case, there are not, so that tells us we're done with the problem. Now, what do we do with this 4? Depending on what is being asked of you, sometimes you just list it as a remainder. And so our answer could be 46 remainder 4. It's the number that doesn't fit equally into another group. Other times your teacher might ask you to record it as a fraction. And if you're asked to record it as a fraction, your 4 would be the numerator, the top number in a fraction, and then the divisor is going to be that bottom number. So depending on what your teacher is asking you how to record it, you might record it just as a remainder, or you might record it as a numerator, or excuse me, as a fraction. Now another thing to check after you're done with the problem is to make sure that you have the same number of digits up here in the quotient as you do in the dividend, and that's why I started with the 0. So there's 1, 2, 3 digits in the dividend, and there's 1, 2, 3 digits up here in the quotient. Now, just because they're the same, that's not a guarantee that your answer is going to be correct, but you know if you don't have the same number of digits up there, that somewhere through the process you missed a step. Our second problem is going to be a 2-digit divisor, and we're going to follow those same steps for a 2-digit divisor. And again, we're going to start in the greatest place with the 4, and we're going to think, if I have 4 apples, could I make 38 groups? And I can't make 38 groups with 4 apples, so I'm going to start with my 0 again. And since I started with the 0, I'm going to stick up here with divide. And now I'm going to look at the first 2 numbers up here, the first 2 digits, 47. If I have 47 apples, how many groups of 38 could I make? I know that I could do 1 group of 38, so that's my dividing. When I put the number at the top, that's divide. Then I go to multiply, and always multiply this 1 digit times whatever the divisor is. 1 times 38 is 38. Then I come over and I subtract. And I'm going to go ahead and do some borrowing this time. 17 minus 8 is 9. 3 subtract 3 is 0. After I subtract, then I compare. This number has to be smaller than the divisor, and it is. So then I can bring down the next number, and I'm going to bring down the 9. Then after I bring down, I have to repeat the whole process again. And you don't have to do this. Oops, and I forgot to bring down that 9. So now I have 99 that I'm going to divide by 38. So if I have 99, how many groups of 38 can I make? Well, I think I can do 2. So if you need to, you can, off to the side, you can do some multiplication work. 38 times 2 is 76. And I don't think I could fit another 38 with 76. So I'm going to put my 2 for division up at the top. Multiplying 2 times 38 is 76. Then I can subtract. 9 minus 6 is 3. 9 minus 7 is 2. Then I have to, after I subtract, I have to compare. 23 is still less than 38. And since that works, my next step is to bring down again. And I'm going to bring down that 3. And since I brought down, then I have to repeat and go all the way up to the top and do it again. 233 divided by 38. One thing I like to do when I have problems like this is I like to do some rounding. So 38 is close to 40. And I'm going to look at the first digit here, 4. And the first digit here, 2. So 2 divided by 4, I can't do that. So I'm going to look at 23 divided by 4, and that's 5. So I'm going to start by trying 38 times 5 and see how close that gets me to 233. So 8 times 5 is 40. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 4 is 19. And that doesn't look big enough, so I'm going to try one more. I'm going to try 38 times 6. 8 times 6 is 48. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 4 is 22. And that's really close. So for dividing, I'm going to put my 6 up at the top. Then I'm going to multiply, which I already did here, but 6 times 38 is 228. Kind of running out of space here. 228. After I multiply, then I subtract. So 233 minus 228. 13 minus 8 is 5. Let's make that 5 a little bit better. 13 minus 8 is 5. 2 subtract 2 is 0. And then I have another 0 here. After I subtract, we still have to compare. 5 is less than 38. There's nothing more to bring down, so that's the end of my problem. Like the other sample problem, there's two ways to record the remainder. One way is just to have remainder 5. And if your teacher is requesting for, if the problem calls for it, you could also record as a fraction. In this case, 5 is going to be your numerator, and then the divisor will be the denominator. One last thing to check to make sure that you've got everything that you need is, we talked about how you need to have the same number of digits in your quotient as you do in your dividend. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the dividend, 1, 2, 3, 4 in our quotient. Again, it's not a guarantee that you have the correct answer, but you know if you don't have the same number of digits that it's not the correct answer when you're done. Have a good day.